Chris Katelaris, a.k.a. Big Chocky. Welcome, mate.
Thank you very much for having me, Mark.
I love your T-shirt.
Thank you.
What's it say?
Blokes Advice and collab Blokes Advice Big Chocky. On the back it says every day is Australia Day.
That's it, mate. It's coming up too. So we'll probably release this around Australia Day. You're a social media commentator. That's probably an understatement in some respects. Maybe take me back a little bit. Apart from sort of reminding me structurally, physically, to the Spaniard, who's actually sat right in that very chair opposite me some time ago now. But apart from the physical likeness, your social media growth has been similar to his, probably a bit quicker than his. You're doing extraordinarily well in terms of, followers, etc., engagement. I'm not necessarily talking about what you talk about. I'm just talking about the outcomes from a social media point of view. You're doing really well, but that's not who the hell you are originally. I mean, take you right back. Who the hell is Chris Katelaris? Sounds like a Greek name to me.
Yes. So, man, I'm adopted from Colombia into a Greek-Cypriot family. They went and got me from Colombia when I was a month and a half old.
Wow.
And that was the start of Chris Katelaris. So that wasn't even my birth name.
Not your name.
No, that's no. So.
Have you ever found out who your biological parents were? Or
I've got my Colombian birth certificate.
Yeah.
On it only has my mother's name. One day I plan on finding her, Maria Caro Perez. It's like it's like looking for a Smith in Australia.
Perez would be
exactly right.
I can imagine be a few.
The goal is to find her one day, 100%. But that was where my journey started, man. And I came back here. I think I did a trip of South America with mum and dad as a baby, infant. Yeah. Came back here, man, and grew up in sunny St Ives. My dad is a trailblazer he's one of the leading advocates for medicinal cannabis in Australia.
Wow.
So by the age of 8, I'd experienced my first police raid because he first was licensed legally. Then they decided to take the license off him. And from there, you can see what happens. So they come and raided him. And
so he sold off label.
Yeah. So
he kept selling it.
So pretty much he had a license to grow industrially and medicinally.
Right. Well, they're hard to get, actually.
They were very
They're still hard to get.
He was one of the first back in whenever, I can't even remember the year. But he is the reason why I am how I am today. The reason why I say this is irrespective of the government pulling his license away, he said, I'm helping children have a quality of life they'd never have without me. So he kept going.
What was he helping kids with, epilepsy or something?
Epilepsy, all those sort of weird, where they have fits, not just epilepsy, there's heaps of different neurological disorders.
Yep.
I've personally witnessed dad help children that have had 30, 40, 50, 60 fits a week down to 2 a week.
Wow.
So they actually have a life back, So that
was he a doctor?
Yes. So he actually is
a medical practitioner?
Yes, he was. And then they deregistered him due to all of this.
Yeah. The system would have crushed him.
The system did crush him because he never wanted them to be able to dip their hand in their pocket like they do now, how they dip their hand in everything that they can. So they crushed him. They really, really
did.
Is
he still alive?
Still alive.
Yeah.
Still living the dream up in the Hunter Valley. Very happy with himself.
Did he end up going back to practicing medicine?
No, never did. So they deregistered him. And then that was when I was about 8 to 9 over that year. They deregistered him and then he continued to go behind the scenes.
Yep.
And he decided to take things into his own hands one day about the age of 16 I was. And he decided to go on national television and show them where he had a grow room and where he was making medicine just to prove a point. And they came down on him like a ton of bricks. So he was facing life in jail.
Wow.
For commercial, cultivate, supply, proceeds of crime, you name it. They threw the book at him.
Right.
And he beat all the charges on medical necessity in front of a jury.
Wow.
So that goes to show that people believed in him and he was doing the right thing.
Did they put him in jail?
Yeah, he was on remand for 6 months total.
Yeah, so he was in jail pending the decision.
Correct. Yeah. So pending being found guilty or not.
Yeah.
But man, that's pretty much where my sort of staunch views on life stem from because I've been taught by a man who didn't bow nor break to anything. And then, so my upbringing pretty much, man, lived in St Ives, went to local schools. Being adopted, I ran into my own troubles at about 14, 15 when you sort of start to go right into puberty. And I remember looking at mum and dad thinking, who am I? Like you're not mum. Like my mum's a tiny little Greek lady. Big dark skinned fella. I was thought, you're not mum, And
oh, you didn't know?
No, I knew. I always knew. But it's like it's a seed that's always in your head. And you think, I didn't come from you. Who am I? Sort of thing. That belonging feeling.
Yeah.
Which unfortunately, like a lot of kids, man, that have trauma of some sort, it led me to alcohol, drugs, crime, just stupid.
Hanging out with the wrong
crowd. Yeah. Exactly right. Yeah. Exactly right. And It served me no good. I've lost 10, 11, 12 friends to suicide, overdose, murder from the age of 16 to 20. And my saving grace, man, I had my first son. I found out I was having him at 19 years old.
You were at 19?
I was 19. Yeah. He was born when I was 20.
So you got a kid?
I've got 2.
Oh, wow.
Congratulations. I got a 9-year-old and a 3-year-old.
Wow.
And I'm 29.
You got a boy and
2 boys.
2 boys.
Yeah, they're the light of my lives. And my oldest saved my life. He pulled me out of that. He's like, righto, I've got to look after you now.
Yeah.
I've got to leave this behind. And I just fell into the typical worker bee, into construction, mobile cranes. I was in cranes for 7.5 years after doing a boiler making trade.
You were driving the cranes?
Driving cranes and dogging cranes as well.
Yep, dog, yeah.
Absolutely loved it. But it became like it got to a point where my youngest son was born and I missed his whole first year of life working.
Yeah.
Just trying to stay up with life in Sydney. You know, it was expensive.
Was that with his mum or just on your own?
No, this is with another mum now. So the second child with a different lady.
Yep.
And she's amazing. She's taken my eldest son in as her own.
So that's flying?
And it's amazing.
Yeah, that's good.
But the turning point for me actually was that last year of cranes where I missed my youngest son's first year of life. I was doing 90-hour weeks, making great money, but at what cost, you know? And I was sitting there in a crane. It's like a little jail box almost.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, you're there for 12 hours a day. You're sitting here listening to some idiot on the radio if you don't like him. Hook up, hook down, slew left, slew right. I just started thinking to myself, what am I actually doing? What am I achieving? And I started to really reflect on my life, reflect on the people I'd lost, reflect on the things that we'd done and seen. And I was like, got to start making a change somehow. So that's how I got into the online space. I created a coaching business. I'm a qualified PT as well, called Mac Coaching, Make a Change. And at first, my mission was to put out there that there are positive role models to men.
You're talking about physical coaching?
Yes, yes. Yeah. That there are positive role models out there that do want to help young men push them in the right direction. Because looking back on my childhood, I think, what if we had that positive role model on the street that wrapped us around the back of the head and said, hey, man, don't do that. That's a really dumb idea.
We used to be coppers in the old days.
Not anymore.
When I was growing up.
Police aren't allowed to police anymore. Yeah, that's something we can get into as we go for sure. But that's where my online presence started. And from there, I started talking about issues that I saw in men, how men escape family life just to go and drink alcohol every afternoon. They get on the bags, whatever it is, whatever their poison is. And it's just an escape tactic because they're not happy with what they do.
Yeah.
You know? They're not happy with their home life, whatever it may be. And I started talking about that a lot. And then I started leaning into how if you've got, this is quite controversial, but if you've got overweight children that don't have a medical condition, I said, you're failing as a parent. And that got a bit of traction. And then I remember one day, and this is where it all began.
Did you first do this on Facebook or Instagram?
Instagram, all Instagram. And then I slowly eased into TikTok. I'm not a massive fan of TikTok though. It all changed one day when I saw a news story about a pedophile. And he got let off with a slap on the wrist, right? And
fuck that.
It really created an emotional response out of me. I think when I read it, I was looking at my youngest son and it was the same age or close by. And I was like, I'm going to talk about that. I don't like that. And I did. And it went absolutely ballistic, right? And
which both ways, like in other words, people agreeing with you and people disagreeing with you, or just
all agreement. And it just went wild. Like it was my first viral video, so to speak. And from there, I was like, maybe I should look into this. Like I should talk about these things because this also impacts men in this day and age, you know? Why are we shown footy and alcohol and gambling, but we're not focusing on things that matter in life? And from there, I started looking at the news more and more and more and picking stories that pissed me off because I'm like, why is no one talking about this on social media? Because I think back to when I was young again, it was always people doing stupid stuff on social media. Very rarely did I come across people my age talking about real issues.
Yeah, it's mostly selfish stuff.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. Everyone's flexing their cars, their muscles, whatever. Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong, I do the same thing in the gym, but I try and make it my mission to talk about things that can impact everyone, you know? So from there, I started going through the news and saying, well, that's not okay. What's going on here? And I talk about it. And people are like, oh, you're saying what I'm thinking. And then I'd talk about another thing, whether it be immigration, whether it be crime, whether it be immigrant crime, whether it be the way that the government are handling money or the way that they handle our people. And everyone's starting to say, you're saying what we're thinking. So then I haven't left the coaching behind. It's still there. But I just started using content to just spread my opinion and views on Australia.
Is it a business?
No.
No.
So at this point in time,
what do you do for a quid?
My platform, coaching still.
Still coaching?
Yeah, still coaching. So at this point in time, my platform, it's just my platform. It's just for me to share my views. I've started a podcast. I haven't really lent into it. Like, I'd love to have a setup like this one day and be able to have people on because I have that view and reach and engagement now. But it's all down the track. Like where I am right now, I'm not set up to do this sort of stuff. Like it's just the building blocks.
So where are you living?
I'm up in the mid-north coast.
It's
New South Wales.
Long, like mid-north coast, like Coffs Harbour type of territory. Do you like, is that because you wanted to get away out of Sydney? You want to be closer to the beach? What's the deal?
The missus' family lives up there.
Oh, cool.
So we got away from there. Yeah, so my family moved to the Hunter Valley, like I said, and then her family moved up, and we were like, it's time to go.
Yeah, it's good territory. And they need to be close to grandparents and stuff like that because I'm a grandparent. I know how important that is.
Yeah, it's super important.
Yeah,
it's super important. Like before we moved out of Sydney, my parents and her parents never saw the kids, and they were always on to us. When are you guys coming up?
Yeah,
when are you coming up? And it's like, why don't we just move?
Yeah.
And it's easier, and it's a much better way of life.
Or something like you too. Like you probably think it's like you don't want generational repeats. You know, you don't know your mum, and you definitely don't know your actual grandparents.
Yeah.
If your adopted grandparents, I presume.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah, but like you probably think to yourself, I owe it to my kids to make sure that I keep this all straight, you know?
Yeah.
And
family to me, being adopted, family to me is a huge thing.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. I've always wanted to know because I have a cousin in my family who my mum's sister had, who's was adopted out into another family.
Yeah, right.
And none of us knew about it until that, my auntie went and found him, or he found her. I'm not sure which way it happened, but it was, and he's a great bloke. Like he's a doctor actually. He's a great guy, and obviously his adopted family are wonderful, and he's really stable guy, etc. And I've often wondered to myself, I was asking you, like, what's it feel like to be that person,
to be adopted?
Yeah.
It's interesting. So for many years in my life, I saw it as like why did my mum give up on me?
Yeah. Was it a question, or were you a bit dirty? Not dirty, but like, I don't know.
It was, it was a bit dirty at first, for sure. And then the way that when I speak to people, or when I spoke to people about it, I should say, they're like, oh, why would your mum give you up? So they continue that negative lens or reflection on it with me. Yeah. But then I actually found my adoption paperwork. I didn't find it. Mum and Dad gave it to me when they found it. We were moving house, whatever. And I went through it all. And it said on my orphanage paperwork. So it asked my mum, why did you give your son up to an orphanage? And she said that she was 19. She didn't have the means necessary to feed me, clothe me, or give me an education. So to me, that is the most selfless act a parent could do.
100%.
And
can you imagine doing that yourself, or having to do that?
I've never. Like I've actually discussed this with people myself. Like I look at my kids and I would never ever. I would move mountains for them, But we look at it through an Australian lens.
You can always get a job here. You can always.
We're not in Colombia in 1996.
Yeah.
It's a different world. It's a third world. Then.
Did it take a while to forgive your mum?
Well, maybe not really. After that, it was sort of like, you know what? I've won the lotto of life. That's what I used to call it. And then I started reframing it that I was born blessed. And then I started meeting a lot more people. And when I told them, it was weird. Once I had a positive thought about it, they'd give me positive back. They're like, man, you must be here for a reason. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
This is so rare. How often do you meet people that have been adopted from a third world country at the time and in the sticks of the bloody mountains? Now you live in Sydney City. Yeah. It's amazing, and that actually really helped me heal when I heard people look at it like that. And people are like, oh, you're so lucky. And I'm like, you know what? I am lucky.
Maybe you're lucky too because of the people who did adopt you.
100%.
I mean, do you get much as a kid and as an adult now?
Yep.
But as a kid at the same time, did you get much Greekness out of them? Do you feel? I mean, given you're Colombian, like you're a Colombian genetically, or you're a South American genetically.
Yes.
But I don't mean genetically, obviously, but I mean culturally. Were they very Greek or?
So my parents weren't, but my grandfather on dad's side.
Your papu?
Yeah, my papu. Yeah. He's like typical papu.
Yeah,
typical.
Proper Greek.
White beater singlets.
Yeah.
Shorts, sandals.
Yeah.
Walking around with the ciggy hanging out of his mouth with a whippersnipper in the backyard. And that was great. Like he was the best.
He's still around?
Yeah, he is.
Oh, wow.
He's in a home now. He's 100. He'll be 101 this year.
Whoa.
Yeah. He's very old. Like,
but it goes to show, like, he's still smoking a ciggy.
Yeah, 100%. A lot of Greekness came out of him for sure. He always had the souvla on the spit, the whole kit and caboodle. But mum and dad, not so much.
Yeah.
like the Katelaris family, some of your listeners probably know about them. They're all professors, doctors, lawyers. They're all very, very smart, intelligent individuals.
Yeah, well-educated people.
Yeah, all of them. Like all of them are big doctors' names around Sydney, really, New South Wales. So yeah, there wasn't a great deal of Greekness. I mean, don't get me wrong, they pull it out at weddings. We smash plates still, all that sort of fun shit, you know, and it's great. I love that stuff. But I wouldn't call us like I've been to friends' houses that are Greek.
Yeah.
And they are Greek.
It's full on.
You know?
Well, they don't wear a t-shirt like that. The t-shirt they probably have the Greek flag
on it. You know, they're very nationalistic people.
Yeah,
Greeks.
totally.
Love it. But
yeah, but can I ask you this? But by the way, where did you get the name Big Chocky?
Big and black.
Yeah.
So I used to be in the cranes. They either used to call me Teeth at night because that's all they saw when I smiled in the night shift. And then one day, someone just called me Big Chock.
Yeah.
It stuck. And the other ones are too racist to say online, so I just let them go. So it stuck from there. I just ran with it.
Yeah. Is it fair to say that you're proud as a Colombian? Like someone who has Colombian genetics, I'm talking about.
To be honest, I don't really consider myself Colombian. Like, although it's my genetic, it's my genetic makeup. It's the blood that runs through my veins. It makes the color. Man, all I've known is Australia.
So you're an Aussie.
I'm an Aussie.
Yeah.
You know,
that's what you identify.
100%.
I am an Aussie.
I am an Aussie, and people really, really like in the online environment at this point in time, people really struggle with that. There are a lot of low intellect racists online at the moment.
Really?
Yeah, man.
They say, how could you be an Aussie?
Yeah, you're black. How? You're not black. You're not Australian. I'm not. No word of a lie.
Shit me.
No word of a lie. I could pull up reels where I've been flamed for being dark skinned, and this is the problem in Australia right now. Like,
the fuck?
Yeah, this will take me to the next point where, although, yes, I focus on a lot of issues, there's a massive misconception that I'm a massive racist and I want to be white. People love to say this about me.
Say that again. They
think I want to be white. They think I want to be Anglo-Celtic. They think I'm what did I get called the other day? A colonizer cocksucker was another one. It was pretty good. They think that I want to eradicate myself for the white people. That's what they say.
What the hell?
And then I've got the crew that think that I'm Islamophobic and I hate all Muslims, which is another misconception. Then I've got some Jewish people that think I hate Jewish people, which is another misconception and it is a fault of my own to some extent, because of short form content. So that's why when I get on long form content and I'm able to,
as in a podcast,
tell the listener how I actually feel and what I'm about, they understand. So I can give you a perfect example. I was at the IBC, International Brawling Championship, up in Gold Coast not too long ago.
Is that the bare knuckle thing?
Not bare knuckle. So they 4-pound gloves,
right?
UFC gloves, and they just box,
yeah,
and they bang. It's amazing, mate. If you can ever,
I reached out to them. I wanted to go to one,
mate. Come, I'll make sure.
I think there's one. Is there one in Brisbane coming up in January?
Yeah, there is.
Yeah,
is it not Jan? I think it's March or something.
Yeah, because I think they sent me a note about
it, mate. Come. I'm hoping.
Is it a good skill?
Yeah. At first, it's just boys that want to bang.
Yeah.
The first fights. Yeah. By the end of it, 100%.
I used to go do when the old used to show, because I'm old enough to remember when it was really, really old. They used to have a Jimmy Shum's boxing tent there.
Yep.
And in those days, they used to have a lot of fighters, like part of a troop.
Yep.
And then anyone in the crowd could jump up on the thing. You know?
Oh wow!
I got drunk once when I was like 16. I got in, and it was, but it was great.
Have a crack.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people think, oh, what's wrong with you? Like, they think, like, boy, you love that. So I said, well, I do.
Yeah.
What's wrong with it?
Mate, there's nothing wrong with it. They say boys being boys is a negative thing in these days. There's nothing wrong with it. Jump in a ring and have a crack.
I love fighting. I still do my jiu-jitsu. I still love fighting.
Yeah, which is unreal.
I don't want to hurt anyone.
No.
I don't want to go out in the street and get in a stink or anything like that. But I do love arrange things where we get in and do our best.
You have a go. That's right. But at the same time, with martial arts, jiu-jitsu, whatever it is we train, how good is it knowing you have that confidence that if someone does want to try and rob you one day, you can defend yourself?
Yeah.
Very important in Australia, in my opinion. The way Australia's going.
But if you push that narrative, people are going to say you're pro-violence.
Of course they are.
And I'm not pro-violence. I hate violence. The worst thing is.
But this is the biggest thing we're seeing now. We're seeing people that are weak-minded labeling those that are not weak-minded. I've been called a racist, like I said before, an Islamophobe, like I said before, anti-Semitic, like I said before. What else have I been called? You name it, right? Coming back to my story in the IBC, the reason why this is important. I had so I was sitting with a line of my mates, 3 big boys come sit down in front of me. And one of them, very obvious, could tell he was Arabic Lebanese, shave mo, big beard. And I thought to myself, oh, this is going to be interesting because I've had plenty of threats. Like I've been told, don't go to Western Sydney. I've got security teams if I need them, the whole kit and caboodle, right? Purely due to misconception because I would sit like this with anyone, no matter who they are. Anyway, he turned around after 15 minutes. He goes, excuse me, mate, you're Big Chock, aren't you? I was like, oh, here we go. And he put his hand out. He said, I just want to let you know that I really respect your message because you stay congruent across all extremes. You just don't want extremism within Australia.
Of any type.
Of any type. I don't care who it is.
Including the neo-Nazis.
100%.
Yeah.
100%, which I've also had wars with them online, plenty of back and forth, right? But one of his mates said, mate, I don't appreciate anything you say. He goes, I think you hate everyone that's Islamic. And I said to him, I said, look, man, I respect that. But I said, find where I've ever disrespected your prophet or your book. I go, you won't, because I don't appreciate anyone disrespecting Jesus Christ or the Bible. So why would I give you the same energy? I said, if you think that me disrespecting extreme is disrespecting your religion, I said, I can't change the way that you think. But I said, I mean no harm. And it wasn't an apology, but I put my point across, and he said, well,
there's a clarification.
Exactly right. And then he brought up the whole Palestine thing because I'm very vocal about the pro-Pali rallies and how they have a massive anti-Australian messaging. And he said, well, what about the people of Palestine? And I said, mate, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The people of Palestine deserve to be left alone, 100%. They also need to leave everyone else alone. But when a movement comes to Australia and turns on Australia, why would I stand for that? And he sort of sat there and thought about it, and he's like this went back and forth 5-10 minutes. And he ended up shaking my hand. He goes, fair enough. Anyway, he messaged me 2 weeks later after I did a podcast with the Unemployable Media Boys.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, mate, he goes, I actually just finished listening to your Unemployable podcast episode.
You're the Inspired Unemployed?
No, Unemployable Media.
That's a different mob,
yeah,
okay.
Different mob, yeah. And he goes, mate, he goes, everything you said to me, you meant. He goes, the way you get your point across, I now understand. He goes, you're very intellectual. He goes, I'm sorry that I had misunderstood you. He goes, you're a good man. Like, God bless, peace and love.
Oh, wow.
And that's why things like this is really important for me because my message isn't hate. And a lot of people get that skewed because I come across as emotional, angry, whatever it is, because I see stories that piss me off because our government do nothing. The problem that we're seeing right now, and especially after Bondi, which was a horrific event, right? The problem we're seeing after Bondi is that people are turning on people on the ground level.
Yeah.
You got to look to the leaders, man. You can't, it's like I've seen so much hate for Muslims and it's like you're going to go marginalize your barber that you've been to for 30 years because he's Muslim as an example, Yeah. You're going to marginalize the little old lady in a hijab walking down the road like she's a threat. No, that's wrong. Look at why we failed. There were failures through ASIO. There were failures through state police. Blame them. Don't go and blame people off their race or religion, and this above all.
Or blame politics.
100%, because that's what it is. Politics have failed Australia, and myself, I don't know if you've seen Sam Bamford, Two Worlds Collide, a good friend of mine, very similar to what I do. All of last year, we called all of this out. We said, this is going wrong, this is going wrong. They're doing nothing about it. And Bondi was like the Swiss cheese theory. All their holes lined up to create a horrific event. And man, I had people that were very extreme left that had abused me throughout the year. Bondi happened. They messaged me and they said, you were right. Politics are failing Australia. Or politicians are failing Australia.
So why do you think that is the case, mate? Because politicians, I hear you rip into them and I know you've invited quite a few of them to come and talk to you.
Yep.
And I'll ask you about that in a moment. But
sure.
Why do you think that politicians appear weak?
Appear?
I don't know if they are or they aren't because I don't know them.
True. Fair.
I don't know. But they appear weak.
Yes.
Why do you think it is? Why do you think that is the only thing they worry about is their own self-survival?
I feel as though, and this is what I've been told from people that have been into Canberra themselves, they come in wanting to change the world. They fall into a very easy workspace with a lot of money and they're in an ivory tower and they forget about the people and they focus on the money. That's from some. Now, with others, I think the ivory tower thing is a massive thing. Once you're a politician in Australia, you're somewhat untouchable by the people.
You've got power.
You've got power. And you've got a different level of power, and it's like Albo said the other day, he goes, every Australian deserves to be heard and I want to hear their opinion. That's a lie. Fallacy. I called him out and had 5 million views on the video. I haven't heard from him. Pauline Hanson and Bob Catter are happy to talk to me. Why can't he?
Yeah.
Just because he's the Prime Minister. I know a guy, funnily enough, heaps of my friends now are former Special Forces, former vet, ADF, whatever, just because of what I talk about. I know a guy that did security detail for John Howard when he went overseas, when the boys were overseas. And my mate said to me, he goes, mate, John Howard would sit down with anyone and have a conversation. Anyone. Yeah. Doesn't matter if you disagree with him or not. He'd sit down and have a conversation with you.
Respectfully too.
Exactly. And he goes, the fact you called out Albo and you've heard nothing, it shows that he's a weak leader.
Do you think politics has changed since the Howard days because of polls and social media? And that they did. I mean, I don't want to make excuses for them, but let me just look at the good side for a second, or a different side for a second.
Of course.
Do you think for a moment that politicians, maybe they take the view, and I'm not saying this is all politicians, but some politicians may take the view that the only way I can achieve those things that I think are good things to achieve for Australia, whatever they might be, is that I stay in power. And because I've only got a 3-year window, I therefore have to see what the polls are saying, and I'll just abide by the polls just so I can stay in my position and we can stay in, let's call it power. And ultimately, I'll compromise some of my values, some of the things I do normally stand for, but just so I can get at least those 10 things done.
Yeah.
Do you think that it could be a consequence of that?
It could be. I agree. But I think at this point now, if we had a politician...
To date. Let's just say to date.
Okay. Definitely.
Now.
But now?
Now what do you think should happen?
I think if we had a politician that was well and truly Australia first, for Australia, like the fact that Pauline Hanson got kicked out and Jacinta Price, they got in trouble for wearing an Australian flag when, I've forgotten the other lady's name, the Pakistani lady, she wore a keffiyeh. Faruchi, I think it is, whatever her name is. They're allowed to wear a keffiyeh. We're not allowed to wear an Australian flag in the Australian Parliament, and then we're seeing more and more, mate, I get sent so many things from police or first responders all around Australia. Police are not allowed to wear the Australian flag patch on their vests anymore by order.
Really?
They're not allowed. Apparently the thin blue line through the patch is racist.
Wow.
Now, how are we living in a time, or how are we living in a country where our own flag is deemed racist? Can you make that make sense?
No.
Like, man, you've traveled the world, right? I haven't personally, but plenty of friends of mine have. Every country they go to, the country is proud of their own identity.
Yeah.
Japan for the Japanese, Germany for the Germans, whatever we want to call it. They all have this massive sense of nationalism. Look at Israel, perfect example of being proud of who they are. Here,
Greece.
Another perfect example. Yeah. Here,
Turkey.
You fly a flag, you're racist.
But what is that? Is that because we're too nice here, or too tolerant, or?
I think for too long we've been tolerant of intolerance for way too long. People now, and this I was going to do a reel on this, and this might be your listeners might like this. There's a big movement of the abolish Australia. They're looking at abolishing Australia. You remember the pro-Pally rally across the Harbour Bridge?
Yeah.
Burning the Australian flag, graffiti, abolish Australia. They want to decolonise Australia, all of these things. My question to these people is, what do you do if you decolonise Australia? What happens? Do you actually know what you're rooting for?
Yeah.
I don't think they do. I understand that what happened to the Indigenous, they were most definitely put through things that no human should, right? There's no denying that fact, okay? If we continue to look back and create more divide between the community, we're never going to come to a point where we're going to be happy. And in my opinion now, the politicians are actually playing on that.
Do you think some people just want us to be unhappy no
100%.
matter what?
Some people just want to watch the world burn, man.
Yeah.
And it's really unfortunate. It's really, really unfortunate.
And they get a voice, though.
Somehow.
Yeah.
They get a really loud voice and this is why some people think I want to watch the world burn, and because I've had such a loud voice in such a short period of time, that they think that I want more divide. Definitely not the case. We need to be able to see anyone on the street, smile, nod, wave. You have your personal beliefs, I have mine, and we go along our day. But with my views that I've shared online, I've had death threats. I've had threats to my children. I've had threats to my wife.
Wow.
I've had threats, everything, And I think, how crazy is it? We're living in Australia in 2026 and people want to clip me for what I talk about online. And they're real threats, man, from people that are worth worrying about.
You've had these things checked out?
Yep.
And you're being told?
Yeah, man. Yeah, I've been told. I've been told. And this is the thing, like, look, I think for me now, I'm not saying I'm untouchable because some would see that as a challenge, but they need to remember that I've grown a following of nearly 1 million Australians in a year. So I always say this to people. I say, imagine my wife jumped online tomorrow night and Chris has been shot. Sorry, he won't be active for a while. You can guarantee there'll be some pissed off people. Really pissed off.
And we're not talking about just fans. We're talking about people who stridently believe in what it is you've got to say.
100%, which is nationalism, patriotism of Australia.
Yeah.
But not only that, man, there's a lot of former ADF, former Special Forces dude that have been completely shafted by the government. I don't know if you've looked into the war crimes that they've committed and how the government's going after them. I think the budget they've spent so far, you might have to fact check me on this post, $270 million has been poured into chasing our Special Forces veterans on war crimes over 4 years. One charge has been laid.
Right, Heston Russell was sat right there in a podcast.
So you know
a good example. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And he won his case, of course, as you know.
And
they ruined his life.
And they still ruin lives. So I have a friend who copped an email just before Christmas. Pretty much it said, just a nice reminder, we're still looking into footage and potential war crimes from when you're overseas. Merry Christmas. So I think the government needs to remember as well that if someone like me does go down, you have people that are really angry and the government have turned on them, but they're looking to do something.
Is religion a part of your life?
Yes. So this is interesting, man. I was baptized Orthodox when I was born, Greek Orthodox, and I sort of turned away. Like the alcohol, the drugs, can't consider yourself religious, in my opinion, if you're using and abusing things. And I feel as though it actually took me further and further and further away from God. And I feel as though when I started this journey, people sort of, little hints, read the Bible, look at this, what do you think of that? I started thinking about it more, and then one day, out of nowhere, I shit you not, my wife would even attest to this, I went and bought a Bible, came home with it, and she goes, what are you doing? I don't read the Bible.
We're talking about the New Testament.
Yeah.
Yep.
You don't read the Bible? I said, oh, well, I'm going to start. Why not? And from there, it's just been a slowly sort of build up, read more. And then she started doing it as well. So now we go to church on a Sunday, and I actually got...
Still in the Orthodox church?
No.
Catholic?
No, I got baptized again. So I'm one of those born-again Christians, right?
Yeah, so you're a big Christian church.
Yeah, Christian church. I'm one of those born again. And I remember I posted up a video of it, and everyone's coming at me. All the old Orthodox are like, why are you going to this church? It's heresy. And all the Catholics are like, oh, you're not at the true church. And I'm like, wow, can't win with these people, right? But what I came back with was very clear. I said, me going to this church or me getting baptized again is not to say I'm giving my loyalty to this church. It's me washing my old life away. I don't go to church to sing songs and dance with the people that I'm with because they believe in whatever. I go because it's for my relationship with God. And that's it.
How would you describe your relationship with God then? I mean, what is that? Is it something a family, something you can do with your whole family as well? Is it?
Yeah, for sure. It's you know what? It almost brings us back to those traditional values of family for us. You know, like God first. Feminists are going to hate what I'm going to say. Father next, mother, children. And that's the way that we work in our home. And it's amazing. It works. My wife's happy. My kids are happy. And my mentors that guide me with God or business or whatever, they're God-loving people, the business mentors too. They always say to me, they're like, man, if you're stressed, give it to God. Talk to God. And I think in this past year that I've had, like, man, I've had some massive stresses. Like Bondi again was crazy for me with my platform. And so many people are like, being an influencer is not scary. It's not daunting. But the night that Bondi happened, A, I had thousands of messages coming through with footage of what was going on. B, all of the former military dudes were messaging me saying, everyone's going to be looking for a voice and they're going to look at you. And they all said, what you say from here could lead to real life repercussions for communities, families. So keep you cool. And that was scary, man. That was shit scary.
So would you take me back to that night? So for the 14th of December.
Mate, we were at church. We were at a carols event.
Oh,
we were at a Christmas carols event. My best mate messaged me saying, active shooter in Bondi. So before I'd even opened Instagram. And it was just finishing the event we were at. And opened Instagram. Boom. Message. Then my text, another messaging app that I use for a lot of the military dudes. Boom. You're seeing what's going on. You're seeing this. You're seeing that. And I'm like, whoa, what's happening? Watched it. I'm like, okay, this is bad. Very bad. And then you get the feeling, like the sinking feeling of like, is this actually happening in Australia? I'm sure you had the same thing.
Yeah,
you know?
I was sitting here watching it. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, you're like, wow, this is Bondi. Like, I used to park across the road from that bridge, walk over that bridge, take the kids down to the park, go to the beach, you know. And
my grandkids go there.
That's what I mean, you know. And we all, like, my wife was watching it. She started crying. She's like, she's a very empathetic person. She's like, this is Australia. This is Bondi. You know, how could people do this? And then the messages started flooding in. You got to be careful with what you say because it could lead to a religious war.
Yeah, so when that happens, something like that happens, you have in your mind the concept of freedom of speech. In other words, we should be free to say whatever we want.
Yes.
But then there's this, you're an influencer. We have great influence, have a lot of followers. You have a responsibility on the flip side of that.
100%.
Not to cause drama.
Exactly right.
But at the same time, there's an expectation that you will buy into it.
Yeah.
But not buy into the drama, but you actually buy into this with a view or
yes.
have something to say.
Correct.
What, you know, like we, in a different environment, we have some similar sort of concepts that apply to us, not for the same reasons. I'm more likely to respond to an economic thing that might happen.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, we stay away from that territory because it's not our territory. Like that's not my audience. But what did you do? What does Chris do? What's the first thing he did?
Mate, the first thing that I did.
And from your Instagram point of view or from your audience point of view.
So the first thing that I did, I didn't even think about it. Someone sent me a video. I think it was of Ahmed disarming the shooter. And I had that and I was like, we've got to show the world that Australians are tough. I was like, I don't know who he is. I'm posting it. Put it up with Australian of the Year. And we were at it. So we went to dinner after the carols event and I was sort of just thinking, what do I do? How do I approach this? What do we do? So
do you have a team or was it just you?
Just me, man.
Yeah, just you.
Super stressful.
Yeah.
Super stressful.
So you do all the video stuff, you do all the text, you do all the editing, everything, post, blah blah blah, the whole thing.
Me.
And you look at the responses. Do you talk with people, etc.? Yep. You do everything.
I love talking to people. Yeah, I do it all.
Okay, wow.
I've been told to go and
That's
get
a
VA.
mission.
Yeah, I've been told to go get virtual assistants, and I'm like, I don't trust people being on my.
That's a mission.
It is a mission, especially with the engagement. That
No. Well, your engagement is mental, but yeah. Okay. So sorry, just go back.
Right.
You're at a restaurant.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah, we're at a restaurant, and my wife called, and he just kept watching it, and like she was hardly eating. I'm like, shit. Like I need to time out for a bit. My phone died, which was brilliant. Got food in, had time to sort of sit there and just think, like, what's going on, you know? And I thought of the first thing that actually came to mind, and some may consider this selfish, it was all the threats that I'd had. And I'm like, there are people out there that will act on this. You know? So that was the first thing. And I was like, family safety paramount. Then my phone charged, went and grabbed it, started checking on people that I knew that were local. I was like, you guys are all good? They were fine. And then I started thinking about my platform and profile. And I was just thinking, how the fuck do I talk about this without my normal delivery, which is generally emotional and angry? So I came on at 10 p.m. and I said, I can't remember word for word, but it was something like, I can't believe we're experiencing this in Australia, but just let the dust settle before anyone does anything. You know, pray for the victims that are in hospital that may not make it. Pray for the families that have lost loved ones, and just sleep, sort of thing. Very calm, very cool, very collected. I said how disgusting it was. We've seen this in Australia. And it was received pretty well. Obviously, not everyone was still up. But the next morning I came in and pretty much called for peace. I said, don't go jumping into a religious war. Don't go doing this. Don't go picking on a community that you think may be responsible when they're not, because two crazy people don't speak for everyone, you know? And I was met with a lot of backlash. People were like, you're fucking weak. why wouldn't you say, let's go and get these people, blah, blah, blah. And I picked one guy out of my comments. He was up in the Goldie, your typical sort of Nike bikey looking bloke, big gold chains, and he had a photo with his little daughter. I messaged him. I said, what do you propose I do? I said, you propose I call for a canola rights? And I said, what, my kids don't see me for however many years if someone gets killed in a stupid riot where people don't even know where they're fighting? And he goes, well, I think it's piss weak you're doing nothing. And I said, well, okay, put yourself in my shoes. I go, look at the photo of your daughter, public profile. Look at the photo of you and your daughter and imagine that you get taken away from seeing her grow up because you said something because you can't control your emotion. And he just didn't respond. And the thing is, man, this is what people don't realize. They want to attack me all the time, but you don't have an audience where you're getting 100,000 views within an hour. So I completely changed my approach. I went from emotionally charged to as calm, cool, as collected as I could, just to get the point across that you need to remain calm through this time. And from there,
and can I just ask a quick question? Do you think what motivated you to do that was because you felt a responsibility to keep people calm?
100%.
Or is it more you reflecting on how you should act?
Both. I feel as though if I came in with anger, even if I was calling for calm, they would have just read the emotion. So I think for me, staying calm helped me think about the message I was sending because I don't do scripts or anything. It's all one take.
Yep.
Try again sort of thing. So for me, it was to keep myself stable, but to also keep my viewers stable.
Were you rattled?
100%, man.
Yeah.
I think everyone was.
Yeah.
Man,
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. I think for me, I genuinely, and I said it to my wife, I genuinely felt like I had the weight of the world on my shoulders because I knew people were looking to me, right? And I think the next day I did another video about Albo, how he went straight for the gun laws, and I flamed him. I got angry with that one, and that went ridiculously viral. I said, typical Australian government. Don't focus on the issue. Come for the law-abiding citizens' guns. I go, how weak can you be? That blew up.
Did Albo, any of his people reach out?
Nope.
What if, let's assume for a moment they did.
Yep.
Would you just do like a one-on-one sit down with him?
Anywhere he wanted to.
Yeah, but would it be? How would you approach it though?
Well, it'd be similar to the way that I spoke to Bob and Pauline. So pretty much, I'd have a set of questions, and I'd just say, "Man, the Australian people want answers."
Yeah,
and speak to an average Aussie. Like, don't speak to your journos that see the scripted questions.
Yeah,
don't speak to Parliament. Speak to me.
Yeah.
Because I've spoken to a few people about this. Imagine if Albo came out after Bondi and he put his hand up and he said, "Guys, I've failed you. As a Prime Minister, I've failed you, and I'm going to fix this problem." There wouldn't be as much backlash. Sure, there'd be heaps. It'd be no
at the time, but it wouldn't have been as enduring.
No way.
Yeah.
By now, if he'd actually started doing things that are fixing the problems that led us to here, wouldn't be as bad as it is now. But now, man, no word of a lie, people cannot stand Anthony Albanese.
I got a feeling this could endure right through to the next election, which he's probably hoping won't happen, and the party would be hoping won't happen. But elections have long memories.
I'm going to make sure that everyone remembers.
Yeah.
Because how can you let someone forget this? This is not only has he failed the Jewish community of Australia, him and the agencies have failed all Australians, and I made this point the other day.
Because they're not only Jewish, they're Australians.
Exactly. That's the point I made,
And there were some, by the way, there were some coppers down there who were not Jewish. They got shot.
Australian.
There's some surf lifesaver guys down there who also got struck with shrapnel.
Exactly.
There was a lot of people who were struck with shrapnel. And then there's the trauma that non-Jewish people have also suffered from watching it.
Exactly.
Like maybe your kids, someone else's kids. Kids are asking questions about it from their parents. What's all this stuff? People don't go to Bondi anymore.
Exactly.
The businesses down there that are not making money anymore or had to close down or whatever the case may be, Jewish, non-Jewish,
doesn't matter.
The whole thing is a fuck up.
It is a fuck up. It's a monumental fuck up. And this is a point I made. I said, before they were Jewish, they're Australian.
Yeah.
So I said, the Royal Commission, in my personal opinion, I'm no political educated bloke, they're making it all about anti-Semitism and social cohesion. Social cohesion is an absolute crock of shit.
I don't even know what that means.
We'll get to that in a second, right? But the whole anti-Semitism thing, I even said it. I said, why is it not about how the government has failed Australians? Bondi has failed Australians. And I even had a lady who's quite a big Jewish influencer, I'd call her that, I suppose.
Yep.
She agreed. She goes, this shouldn't just be about anti-Semitism. This should be about Australians, because if it's just about us, it'll happen to anyone. And that That says.
What do you think about the? Because I remember hearing the guy from ASIO, and I don't know if he's still the boss of ASIO, but some time ago, saying that because as you remember, we're getting synagogues firebombed and down in Victoria, especially in Victoria, and he was warning us that Iran was behind a lot of this stuff, and which sort of makes sense, and that whilst the government wasn't really saying much, I mean, the elected officials weren't really saying much, the ASIO boss was saying stuff. If he was sort of issuing a warning at the time, do you think that the real fault is perhaps sits in the laps of government or politicians who didn't act on these things?
Ignored. 100%, man.
And what do you think? Is that more about politics? Like we weren't worried about winning a vote or losing a vote?
I feel as though, let's look at someone like Tony Burke as an example to start. So let's go away from Bondi. He brought back the ISIS brides, went through massive scrutiny, right? But he refuses to bring up anything about Islamic extremism. Now, people are like, well, why not? Why won't he? Well, he sits in the electorate of Watson. Where's Watson? Lakemba and the surrounding areas. So does that mean he wants to appease to his voters so he doesn't get offside with them? 99% of Australians right now are saying yes.
Probably 99% of people in Lakemba who might be Muslims probably are against what happened anyway.
That's exactly right.
They don't want extremism.
That's exactly right. But he doesn't want to use that terminology.
Yeah, and he doesn't want to be put in a position where he has to justify his position.
Exactly.
I mean, because I grew up in that area. I went to school in Lakemba.
Yeah.
And I know Halden Street really well. and I can tell you that my mates from out there who are Muslim guys and women, they're totally against extremism.
Yes.
They're like you, Aussie.
Yeah.
They don't want this shit happening.
This is the thing, right? This is why it really baffles me and annoys me that I'm called the names that I am, because I have Muslim friends and they agree with me.
But when did the politicians get this, though?
Because
why don't they have some, like I mean, I once said to him opposite. I won't say which politician, but he got voted in in the last election. And I said to him, I was talking more about economics. I said, but I was talking about Paul Keating, what a courageous bugger he was. Like Paul Keating was such a courageous politician, as was Bob Hawke. Labor guys, I didn't necessarily agree with their politics, but their courage to do things that was unpopular was amazing. As was John Howard, equally, and Peter Costello, both sides of politics. And I said to this particular politician, I said, when does popularism get pushed away in favour of courage as a politician? When does a politician have to be brave and courageous and do something that he or she really believes in? That's for our better, and he or she might get criticised. And he's a very clever speaker, this particular politician. He was able to walk me around it and through it, and like at the end of the conversation, I was completely forgot what the question was asked, and I was just sat there as bamboozled as our audience. But do you? And he was one of the best at it. But do you think that these politicians are genuinely poor leaders, or they genuinely believe that the only way they can get anything done is if they just listen to what the polls are saying and play popularity as opposed to play conviction?
If we were saying that they were playing popularity, they all should have flipped on their heads right now, because the Australian people have stood up and said what's going on.
Yeah.
I genuinely think they're just weak leaders at this point. They've gone too far down that we're going to appease the LGBTQIA mob, and it's gotten to a point now where a lot of Australia, man, my following attest to this, have said, no, this is all wrong. If they wanted to go with the polls, they'd turn around now and say, we're going back the way we came. But they're not. They're doubling down. And instead of facing the problems, they're actually coming for people like myself and other creators and, like this social cohesion. Have you looked at the new bill that they've announced? Okay, so they've even got something in there where if you incite fear into a community, you look at 5 years jail.
That's you. Someone might come after you.
Exactly.
They might allege that you're inciting fear.
Exactly.
In other words, you're anti-social cohesion.
Exactly. but who defines social cohesion?
They've recalled Parliament early, haven't they?
Yes, that's what this is for. Who defines what fear is? Who can be scared? How fearful do they need to be?
Well, it'll be the prosecutor or whoever they appoint as the next commissioner for this. They'll appoint some person.
And you know why they're doing this? It's because people like myself, because I'm not the only one, there's plenty like me now that are growing rapidly. We can sway elections. I had 217 million views in 90 days across Facebook and Instagram. According to AI, that's the top 0.1 to 0.3% in the world of views. So if they shut voices like us down, they do whatever they want. That's why, in our opinion, they're coming more for speech, or your freedom of speech, I should call it, than they want to focus on the Islamic extremisms. Because they're not worried about the Islamic extremism. They're worried about people like us that are showing Australia what's happening. So we really are disrupting social cohesion more than
they would say.
They would say.
Yeah.
They would say, correct, that we're disrupting it more than anyone else, which is insane. Absolute insanity, man. Like, people have reached out to me and they're like, are you gonna take down on content? Are you going to stop? What are you going to do? And I'm like, well, look, it's very broad. If you do go over it, it's very broad term blanket statements.
But they're the worst, though, because they can be interpreted however they want.
Exactly.
And then, of course, it's up to you to prove
otherwise. Yes.
Because the burden of proof will be on you. Because it'd be a crime.
Exactly right.
So this would be a criminal burden of proof.
Right.
Let's just focus on that point for a moment. Yep. And I think that's a really important point you're making.
Yep.
And it's sort of a bit of an intellectual point. And intellectual in the sense that I don't mean it's improbable. It's just as probable as any other point, but it's intellectual. It goes beyond choosing a side. It's about the concept of what is fair.
100%.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying is if you allow that to happen, then I'm effectively opening the door for them to do the same thing in relation to any other group. Or any individual who represents a group. It goes against our total system of adversarial system in Australia. That is, you're guilty until you're innocent until proven guilty, I should say.
Precisely.
And you should always have the right to represent yourself or be represented.
Yep.
And things like natural justice always have existed in our system.
Exactly right, man.
So what happens to you, to a person like you, when you see these? And obviously people ring you up and tell you this, or reach out to you and tell you these things.
Yeah.
But these complete anomalies as to the way we should be conducting ourselves. Most Australians wouldn't see these things because you're in that vibe.
I'm in the space,
and people are going to be letting you know, some of which you may not be able to check accuracy or not, but it doesn't matter. Let's just say 90% are inaccurate. Let's say 10% are accurate for the sake of the conversation. What does that make you feel? Because, you're hearing about all these events that are occurring which just don't make any sense in overall fairness. Yet at the same time, you see the larger event, like deporting someone who hasn't committed a crime, like that sort of inequality.
Mate, it makes me really wonder what's going on in our country and what the future looks like. Like, man, like I said, I've got 2 kids. What's it going to look like in 20 years' time?
Do you think it's a Labor Party thing?
This is a good question.
Is it a left of the Labor Party? Because the Labor Party right now is run by the Labor left.
Yes.
It's not like Chris Minns is not like that. Like like at a state level, we don't seem to have the same issues.
Yeah.
And a lot of crimes are state law too.
That's right.
But at the federal level, we have a left-leaning government.
For sure.
And they appoint left-leaning bureaucrats because that's what anyone would do. If we had a right-leaning government, they'd appoint right-leaning bureaucrats too. It's just normal.
Look after their own.
Totally. Yeah. Because they want to, they want to pursue their own ideology. Do you think it's about the left-leaning Labor Party in Australia? I mean, it's sort of a similar vibe going on in the UK at the moment.
It very much is, isn't it?
It's not in the US, although they are fighting the Democrats big time, and there's riots and all sorts of shit going on there.
They've always had problems in the US.
Yeah.
Look, it's hard to say because...
Is it a new phenomenon?
Yeah. I dare say it may be. Like, man, to tell you the truth, before this, I was never into politics. I didn't look at it.
But you're right in the middle of it now, mate.
Now, man, I am front and center. Like, when Bob Catter's team reached out to me, I got on the phone to his chief of staff, and she's like, "You're the best. We all watch you in Parliament." And I'm like, "Oh, wow." And then she put me on to another lady that worked for Bob, and she's like, "Yeah, we all watch you too." So it's different parts. And I'm like, holy shit, it's crazy. But look, coming back to your question, I'd love to say that is the problem, left-leaning Labor, and that if we get another government in, if we get new power in, it changes. But I feel like we won't change. We're almost too far down this path that the government are going to keep pushing the direction they're pushing because they've gone...
Government, you mean the politicians?
The politicians.
What about if Tony Abbott came back? Because, I reckon Tony might be looking to come back.
I've heard whispers myself.
He's launched his book. He's been on our show.
Very interesting, yeah.
And Tony's a good warrior style PM.
Yeah. The problem is now...
Do you reckon it's gone too far and he might not be able to change it back?
A prime minister themselves don't change anything. The whole crowd...
He has to have a really strong party around him.
And what strong parties are there?
Yeah.
Like we've seen... Literally, what's very interesting now is watching the rise of One Nation.
Yeah.
People are starting to realise, like, we need someone that has a real sack. Someone that's ready to just say whatever they think, not care about the backlash, but they need a team. And there was actually someone I was speaking to the other day. He said, well, he thinks, and you can weigh in on this yourself. If One Nation keep growing in support, he goes, the Libs and Labor will just preferential vote one another. So they stay in power as a two. Now, what does that tell you?
Yeah.
Personally, that tells me that's two wings of the same bird.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what side's in, you go on the same way. And if that happens, man, that proves what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because One Nation and Labor are head-to-head right now in the polls, apparently, what I last saw. So if that happens, where do we go as Australians?
Did you think that it's funny? It's funny, as you were speaking, I was just thinking about the Labor Party when I was growing up as a kid.
Okay.
And in that seat that you were talking about at the Lakemba Punch Bowl, that territory where I grew up, our local member was a Labor Party person. His name was, I think it was either John Durack or something like that. I think it was Durack. I was just a kid. And, I'm talking 60 years ago. And he represented the working class. But the working class were Aussies, whether they were Greek, Italian, Lebs, white Anglo people or whatever. Everyone just worked. Yeah. You worked for a living, you worked in a factory, you worked in a shop, or you worked for the government or whatever, you're working class. No one had much. But they represented them. Do you think the Labor Party has sort of changed its fabric?
Massively out of touch.
They don't represent that class anymore.
No way, man. I don't think anyone in politics does anymore, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
You may have the odd few. Like, I spoke to, I've forgotten his name. One of Katter parties, he just left it. I've forgotten his name. I had a few good chats with him. He was great, man. I reckon he stood up for the working class. But when I look around at the political environment now, we'll call it, right? Man, I reckon a lot of them have never done a hard day's work in their life. And some of them may get really offended if they're listening or if they do listen to your podcast, but like...
They do.
Meh, good. I hope I hurt some of your feelings. Man, I used to work 90-hour weeks. Sure, if you're doing 90-hour weeks in an office, it's a little bit different. Go out, sweat, so you've got to drink 10 litres of water in a day. Go work in the mines. Like, they don't understand there's a massive, massive disconnect between the everyday Aussie hard worker.
And it doesn't matter where he or she come from?
No.
Or what religion they have?
Don't care. Literally doesn't matter. And this is where, I call for unity about it all the time. I say, like, you need to understand we're all the same. It doesn't matter black, white, yellow, brown. I don't give a shit.
And you're right. That's a really good point. I'm glad you said that. We got to stop talking about religion.
Yes.
We got to stop talking about what color my skin is.
Yes.
Where my parents come from, because we all do. Even I start off saying, the Greek thing, but all that's bullshit at the end.
Yep.
It might help you, like certain songs or certain type of food or certain sports, or have a fond memory of a grandfather or a grandmother or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we're all the same. And in this country, we're all Aussies.
I'll add one thing in. You're an Aussie if you subscribe to the Aussie way.
Yeah.
If you come in here,
It's got to be Australian values.
then you're Aussie.
Yeah.
And that's the message I send,
It's
man.
got to be Australian values.
100%. And I feel as though,
Have you ever heard a politician say what values their party stands for?
no, not as
Wouldn't
of
that
late.
be refreshing?
It would be. Not as of late. Not at all. And that's a really good point.
Like list them.
Yeah.
These are our Australian values.
Yeah.
These are the values we think Australia stands for, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Vote for us or don't vote for us.
Haven't heard at all. Not a peep. And I think coming back to what we were saying, politicians, they hold themselves up here, right? And a lot of people feel like they're down there.
Yeah.
And
we are down there.
Well, there's no
pay your taxes, collect the GST,
Yeah.
and shut the fuck up.
Mate, they put their hand in your pocket and rip everything out at this point. Like I'm slowly starting to get into entrepreneurship. Like I'm trying to launch businesses, do little things here and there. And I keep learning about this new tax or this new thing that they steal and then this new thing they go for. And I'm like, holy shit, how do you get ahead?
Well, these days we collect the taxes for them and we pay them in advance. So we pay our own personal taxes in advance of the next year.
Yep.
On what we're going to earn the next year if we're an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
And we collect every dollar that we receive with 10% of that we collect is for the government and we go to pay them every quarter or whatever arrangement is.
Yeah.
And I don't know any countries that are like that. We not only pay the tax, we collect the tax.
Mate, it's insane. And I was listening to a great podcast the other day, but the point I'll get out of it is that look at a country like UAE or Dubai. Very resource rich, very rich nation. Now, why the fuck aren't we rich?
Oh no, we got more resources than all of those nations in the UAE, much more. But their tax rate there is only like 10%. It's here, and by the way, it's not like they got a whole lot of pre-existing infrastructure. Because they're a big desert.
That's right.
They're building it, but it's a big desert.
Yeah.
We have all the resources in the world here. Some of the best resources in the world in certain categories than any other country, both in quality and volume.
But we don't make anything from it.
But we, the country, don't make anything out of it. It's
we literally, I hate using this word, such a vile word. They rape our country.
Yeah.
For fuck all.
Yeah.
It's what it is. They're not making intimate love. We're not getting anything back. We're just getting obliterated. They're digging it open. They're taking all our gas. They're taking all the uranium, all the coal, everything. Even our livestock export. What do we make for it? Like we could be rich. Australia could be a superpower in that aspect.
We could be on a per capita basis, the richest nation in the world. Per capita, every person.
Exactly. But what does that tell you about the people running the show?
Yeah.
This stems into the whole backroom deals of who's making what where and who ends up in this position after they get out of politics. And these are all questions that need to be asked. Like I don't delve into it that much.
Do you ever see yourself potentially being a politician?
Mate, I've been asked this many a time.
Yeah.
I feel as though it changes my audience. So if I was to join a party or become an independent, people would automatically think now that I've sold out to become one of them.
Right.
And I feel as though in a day and age where we've got your Joe Rogans, your Andrew Tates, your Myron Gaines, or different American names that have skewed politics outside of it, Australia needs people like that. Because I feel as though you look at Ralph Babbitt, Senator Babbitt, he blows open heaps of stuff. He's like, there's no change in this, not from the inside. And that says something. When you've got a senator replying to people on Instagram saying, Australian government's doomed, I can't change it. You need a few more people than just in the house.
And do you think about I happened to walk with a mate of mine this morning. We're talking about the concept of democracy and the sort of concept. The conclusion I drew is I said we only have one democratic day every 3 years, and that's the day we're asked to vote. We're all given the right to vote. Every other day for the next 2 years and 364 days, there's no democracy, because true democracy, back when it was first invented, was everything was debated. Everything was debated.
Look at the Greeks, mate.
Yeah, they debate everything every day, all day. They still do, by the way. The Greeks still do.
At the local cafe.
They still debate it. Whereas here, there is no debate. So policies are decided by who controls the parliament.
Exactly.
And they take the view is that, for example, these laws that are coming out now, whether they're right or wrong, is a different issue. But the laws that have been proposed, and the laws that will be proposed for the rest of the year, a lot of those laws are based on things that have just happened.
Correct.
Not things that we knew about at the time we were voting. Precisely. And we therefore we did not know what anybody's policy was. So that's not democracy. No. So do you get bothered by that fact? I mean, do you get into that whole process of, do I live in a democracy anymore?
As of late, yeah.
Yeah.
Heaps. Even the example you gave, you said we have one day where we're given a right to vote. We don't even have a choice, because you get a fine if you don't.
Yeah. How's
that a democracy then?
Yeah.
You don't actually have free choice.
Yeah.
At all. You are told you have to vote.
Pick a side.
Or you're paying $205 or $50.
Pick a side.
Exactly right. They're saying choose.
And now, right now, this pick a side mentality is getting worse.
So much worse.
They're not just saying pick a side politically. They're saying pick a side in relation to these laws that are now coming out, these new laws.
Yep.
And they're nearly sort of saying, are you pro anti-Semitism or are you pro Islamophobia?
Exactly. Pick a side.
Or when it comes to these kids who are under 16-year-old kids who can't sort of look at social media.
Yep.
Are you pro freedom of speech and freedom of access to what's online?
Yep.
And parents should be the ones who are monitoring this. Mm-hmm. They say pick a side.
Yeah, that's right. That's all they want to do. But you know what they do from that? They divide
and conquer.
Yeah.
And that old game has been going around for a long time, divide and conquer, and it works.
Man, look at Australia. Look at Australia right now. Australia right now is a perfect example of divide and conquer. I wouldn't be getting threats if we weren't divided to start with.
Yeah.
Without that unity, we're never changing what these people do, because you need to unite as a whole. Imagine if everyone stopped voting for one side. Don't get me into the preferential voting system. That's completely fucked too, right?
Totally.
But imagine if they just all ticked one person's name with a number one. Everyone. Then what? It's a landslide, right? And if it goes the other way, well, then they're playing funky business and then fucking it all up.
Start again.
Exactly.
So would you say you stand for unity then?
100%.
You want it, but is that
is it possible?
In today's age, is it day and age, is that practical? Yeah. I mean, we live in an age where around the world we're divided. Everyone's around the world seems to be divided everywhere, except in the place where there's one dude who controls the whole joint.
I feel as though the unity that I'm talking about is not unity where we have to agree on everything. It's the unity that I can sit down with anyone in Australia, and although we may have differences, we can see above all we're human beings.
Yeah.
That's the unity.
And talk about our differences.
Without yelling and screaming or getting violent and threatening. And I even said this to my old man the other day. I said, I'm sick of people getting emotionally charged when they're talking about a topic that they're not comfortable talking about, because it tells me that they do not have the intellectual ability to stay calm and think about what they're talking about. That's a problem, man. And in 2026, when we are living in a world where kids can change their gender or a person can identify as a cat, what the fuck is going on? Normal conversation is no longer considered normal. And that's the unity I'm looking for.
Yeah, but Chocky, do you think that's only, maybe that's always existed, just that those people now got a voice? And because my gut feeling is the majority of the population, I don't know what that percentage is, but is more like this conversation.
Yeah.
And want unity.
Yes.
And there's just a few out there, though, on the edges who seem to be able to make a lot of noise.
See, I wish I could agree with that on a whole, but when I've done reels on, example, Islamic extremism, my comments are full of low intellectual racists, blanket hating all Muslims, and that's fucked up.
Yeah.
If I do a reel on an African criminal and I say he deserves to be deported, they say deport them all.
Right.
And I think, well, hang on a second. how the fuck are we going to have unity when you guys are just throwing blanket statements? So this is a problem when I feel as though people like us, Mark, we aren't that common anymore. And what I mean by that is if we had differing views, I'd happily still sit here and talk with you. Many people aren't like that because they've been pushed to such a point where they're looking for someone to blame. They're looking to let their emotion out onto another community, religious community, whatever it may be. And that's where we're at. And it's fucking scary, man, because I feel as though Australia is a powder keg. After Bondi, if we get another Bondi-like event, that keg might go bang.
Well, we've got Australia Day coming up, and this podcast is going out around that time.
Yeah.
What do you think? What are you thinking? What are you feeling?
Mate, personally, I feel as though from my circles and my crowds, very tame, very safe. No one's got hate in their heart at this point in time. The people
great.
that I talk to. There's a massive march up in Brizzy, which is connected to a bunch of guys that I know. Not March for Australia. I've forgotten the name. Slipped my mind now. Big AFP presence, private security presence, politicians going, which is unreal. Now, what's going to be interesting, and probably by the time this is released, we'll know or not, in New South Wales, as you may or may not know, they've put an indefinite ban or the 2-week ban on protests.
Yep.
So what they may turn around and do in Sydney or New South Wales, no Australia Day march. So I'm a bit concerned about New South Wales, I won't lie.
Yeah.
Because the last thing we need now is a handful of young, dumb 18, 19, 20-year-olds getting met with riot police, getting told to go home, and they're like, no, fuck you, it's our country. Don't do that.
What will you do?
What do you mean?
What will Chris Katelaris do on that day?
Mate.
What do you do on Australia Day?
I'll probably go to Brizzy, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
I haven't told anyone yet, but if this is going out around then, it's not a bother.
Yeah, it'll go.
I'll probably go to Brisbane. It's going to be a good vibe. Like I said, there's politicians there. I'm pretty sure Pauline's going. Pretty sure Bobcat is going. AFP presence, private security for people like them.
But you'll make it a work day. Let's call it a work day or a mission day.
100%. 100%. Like, if I wasn't going to that, to be honest, I'd probably be at the beach with my family.
Barbecue.
Have a barbecue. It's you know what? It's interesting. Australia Day, right? So we've got the whole Invasion Day marches that want to go on. And I did a reel and I said, I've got fatigue hearing about Invasion Day. And the reason why it is when I was a boy, so when I was 14, when we started drinking in parks on Australia Day, mate, it didn't matter what colour you were. We were all
everyone got on it.
Australia Day, right?
They all got on it.
Even my Indigenous friends.
Yeah.
But now that's changed, man, and you've probably seen it over your life more than I.
Yeah.
Indigenous and Australians used to celebrate Australia Day together. Yeah, sure, there was that small amount that were like, no, I don't like this. Sure. That movement has grown massively in the past 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, to the point where that will create civil unrest in a big way. And I also worry about an Australia Day march meeting one of their marches.
Okay, can I ask, it's just a final thing. It's interesting. A lot of people would say, why get involved? Why don't I just live my life? Why don't you just live your life?
Mm-hmm.
See your family, your kids, your missus, your parents, do your work and not worry about it.
Man, in my opinion, it's a man's responsibility to protect his community as well as his own.
Is that you? That's your thing?
100%. I look at my kids and I think, if I leave my head in the sand and just make money, come home, play dad, play husband, when I die, I've left them, sure, money, but what else? What happens when they step into the real world where fucking boys wanting to be girls is normal, where we don't get rid of violent criminals, but we deport people that haven't committed crime? You're leaving your children a world that is completely like, it's a dystopian world.
So it's duty.
It's duty, man. It's personally, I find it a man's duty to look after his children, not only when he's in the world, but do his best to make sure when he leaves this world, he leaves them something worth living.
And do you think you're trying to affect change, or you're just trying to stop the changes?
Mate, personally, I feel as though my mission at this point is to wake the masses. And that's what I feel like I've done in a big way. This year for me is going to be very transformative.
26 you're talking about?
26 this year, yeah. I want to start making change in the sense of building relationships between communities. Won't be easy, especially because a lot of people have that preconceived, he's a racist.
Give us an example.
So I've got a few big leaders from the Muslim community that want to sit down with me on a podcast, which is unreal.
Yeah, that is good.
I've got people from the Jewish community that want to sit down with me, which is unreal. I've got former criminals that want to sit down with me that have completely turned their life around, gone to God, and they're like, man, like kids need to leave that life behind. Pays nothing, you know? So I feel as though with my platform I've grown, I want to use it now to show people that A, the politicians don't give a flying fuck about us, right? But B, irrespective of me disagreeing with someone, I will still sit down and have a conversation with them. So I feel as though last year was my audience grow.
Yep.
Build everyone up to see who I am, what I'm about, what I stand for. This year is to show the people that although I may not agree with someone, I'll still sit down with them, have a conversation. I'll let people have their own airtime. And what I find is very interesting, I actually got called out the other day on Instagram by an Indigenous dude. He's like, oh, you're at this and you're at that. I said, man, I'll pay for you to come to my podcast, sit down and have a chat with me. You think you took me up on the offer? Of course not. So what I'm also proving is that there is a large portion of people that are happy to have very strong opinions, but too weak to go and talk about
and don't stand up.
Exactly. So, man, on that note, like the biggest thing I can say to your listeners, and I know it's a very different demographic to mine, when I say stand up or it's a duty to protect, I don't mean go on your phone and yell at your phone like I do. I don't mean talk to your neighbors about what's going on in the world. I mean, if you have the ability to get involved with your children's future, whether it be you're going to coach their soccer teams, you're going to get involved with their schooling, you're going to make sure you get them into martial arts, you're protecting them and you're making sure that these weird ideologies are not making their way into their life, you are doing your duty. Not everyone has to pick up or follow my path, you know, in any way, shape or form. But if you're one of the people that do want to stand up and talk, get on social media, say your piece, you know, write letters. If you want to get involved in politics, do it. You know, it's very clear at this point in time, you don't need to be a very strong individual to be a politician at all.
It sort of seems that way.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, so if you want to try,
as disappointed as I am to say that.
Yeah, as am I, man. These are the people that lead our country, you know, or lead our country. So making change looks different for everyone, but be a part of the change before it's too late. That's my biggest message I can send.
Well, Big Chocky, Chris Katelaris, has been a great conversation. I really enjoyed myself listening to what your point of view are. And what's amazing, and good on your mum and dad, they should be proud of you. And your biological mother, if she ever gets to know you, for all you know, she may well know you. She may well listen to this. But well done for all of them, your whole family, the whole lot, your wife, everybody, because everybody has to bear the part of the burdens that go with this stuff. And this is not an easy road that you've chosen for everybody.
Exactly right.
And you do it. You're strident about your position. You express your views very eloquently. Every now and then it gets a bit emotional, but it doesn't matter. We know what you're saying.
Emotion's good, man.
Yeah,
it's good to be real.
It's good to show how you really feel about something, as opposed to being really composed. It's good to see that side of somebody. I think, you're a young, from my point of view, you're a young man, and not too many young men would have the kahunas to go out there and put themselves out there.
Not like this.
Yeah. So well done.
Thank you very much, mate.